To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land. Here age relives fond memories of the past. And here youth may savor the challenge and promise of the future. Disneyland is dedicated to the ideals, the dreams, and the hard facts that have created America, with the hope that it will be a source of joy and inspiration to all the world. Thank you.
I've been waiting my whole life to meet you.
There's never been a better time to make the dream come true.
Today we're going to talk about those taboo price increases.
Instead of actually addressing capacity issues in their parks, Disney Genie is designed to take advantage of this problem by milking your wallet instead.
But this is not Walt's Disney anymore.
Chewie, I have a question. Do you like Lightning Lane? Do you know what that is? Yeah, I don't like it either.
Well, hello, my magical, wonderful lovelies. You're here on a Tuesday, and that's where we do deep dives into the environmental, social, ethical issues with the world. And obviously, we're talking about Disney Disillusionment, as voted by you. If you're not subscribed already, please do, because that's how you can interact with me better on the community tab. Because that's how we have polls, and I also get updates from you and things that you want me to cover as well. It's very handy. Same as my Instagram. It's linked down below always. It's just brandyclaire_vegan. But obviously, what are we talking about today? This topic, which I've seen across the board, because I don't know if you know this, if you've been watching me for a long time, you'll know I'm a Disney adult. Yes, Curtis, I know, but when it comes to the iceberg thing, I'm kind of close to the top. But we still did have Disney music playing at my wedding when people were entering, and we did have also hand-painted by me Disney table settings. So I'm definitely a Disney adult. I've definitely been a fan for a very long time. But I've been seeing a lot of people kind of like shift their views on it. In case you didn't know, we were going to be having our honeymoon and going to Disneyland because it's been a lifelong dream of mine. Even my poor, ever-loving husband would go there, even though he hates crowds and the people and the queues and the people and the crowds and the fakeness and how expensive it would be. He was going to do that for me because he knew how important it was for me. But I don't want to go to Disneyland anymore. Yeah. And I'm 32 and I've had this in my brain ever since watching Little Mermaid for the 100th millionth time on VHS, but we're not going anymore. So I want to talk about why so many other people have been getting completely disillusioned to the point of almost abandoning Disney from all sides of the spectrum. This is what I'm finding so interesting, because it's not just people that have been hating on Disney for ages for all of the corrupt, terrible things that they've been doing as a company, because you've had a whole bunch of people that are still loyal, ever-loving fans. But even these loyal, ever-loving fans that go to the parks yearly, or they have annual passes, or it's just the place where they like to go with their family when they can afford it every few years, like, even these people are getting turned off from it, and I really wanted to dive into all of the many reasons why. So we're creating this look today. I didn't really know what I was going to do, as always, so it's just kind of a bit of fun. Of course, everything I've used on my face is cruelty-free, vegan, not over parent companies that test on animals, because that's how we roll here, and it's all listed down below too. But we're talking about a lot of things. Now, I also do want to say that just because I'm featuring some videos in this, that doesn't mean I endorse them as a whole as a channel. I've tried to take a very holistic view here, so I'm including people that I don't agree with in this. The ones that I do recommend you go and check out, then I will have them linked down below. Like, I still watch channels like Disney Dan, The Happiest Vegan on Earth, Disney Food Blog. Like, there are still channels that I do watch and enjoy, and of course they'll be linked down below too. But not everyone that I'm including here I fully agree with, okay? Like I said, we aim for a whole view. We don't aim for like cherry picking. That's our goal here. So without any further ado, let's get the magic started, shall we?
The problem is that Disney only wants to do the absolute bare minimum to achieve guest satisfaction.
But at the very beginning of this year, Disney slapped us with hundreds of price increases.
And I clicked Slinky Dog Dash right at 7 a.m. It said it was going to be an 8:30 return time. However, by the time it loaded, it was pushed back to 11:15 to 12:15, which can happen. So see right at 7 a.m. because so many people are trying to book these attractions. So before I even stepped foot in the park, I had already triggered the dreaded 120-minute rule.
The Genie Plus Lightning Lane people, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. 20 minutes in. All right, let's get one party from the regular line. Next.
the most disappointing and expensive place on earth. Defunctland has got a most excellent video all about the history of FastPass, and it's actually gotten even worse since they published that video. I've got it linked down below. It's a fantastic watch. They even got an engineer involved just to show how much Disney does not care about you. Disney parks have increased in price and decreased in quality from all of the videos that I've been watching, which I have mentioned is a lot. And also from reading the comment sections of those videos, because of course not everyone that experiences Disneyland or Disney World will be like having a whole YouTube channel about it. And you could also go pointing out that the people that are making videos about this will have a bias towards favouring Disney as well, because you want to be on that sweet, sweet PR list, you know? And most ironically, for all of its flaws, it actually looks like Disney in the 2000s was the best time to go there, because you had amazing rides. It was still kind of expensive, but it was definitely a trip that a lot of Americans could make once a year, and then people from around the world, depending on your income, obviously the more privileged people, they'd be able to go like once every few years. But now it's like that has actually gotten more and more out of reach. Like the rides were good then, the experiences were good then, like things were a lot more within reach of the average American, which is very varied depending on what state you live in, of course. So we're using broad strokes here, but it was a lot more affordable then, and there's a lot of information on Disney Food Blog which you can find about all of the historic stuff, as well as all ears. They've got like a breakdown of costs like over the years, and it's like you can really see the difference from when Bob Iger took over, and particular people like the next Bob Chapek. Looking at what's dropped off from inclusive pricing, and also the price hikes, the drop in staff levels, and the drop in quality overall, it's like the magic is missing. I mean, you can even look at their Riviera Resort for like a prime example of this. This brand spanking new, incredible, beautiful luxury hotel is meant to be modelled after the French Riviera.
It's just Disney movie posters in French. Oh wait, did you mean these cartoon murals? I'm sure that the business and convention class that stays at this hotel is really looking forward to this. As a potential Disney guest, let me ask you this. Are you willing to pay $800 a night for a room decorated with what I saw described as rooms to go kids?
For this luxury hotel to look just this bad and cost this much, Disney must really be struggling like that. There's no other reason that they could possibly charge this much for this corporate bland hellscape. Well, actually, no. Disney's actually doing fantastically well. I had a look at their financial reports. Profits for the corporation are up, as well as profits for the parks. In the quarter ending January this year alone, they made $7.2 billion from the parks, in comparison to $3.6 billion in the same quarter of 2021. And of course, this is all taken directly from Disney's website too. They're partially attributing it to an increase in prices, along with obviously pent-up Disney adults like myself and people that have been wanting to get there for the better part of 2 years actually, to actually experience some magic, as Curtis Connor rightly pointed out. So yeah, you've got all these people that have been waiting to go for ages for their first family vacation, for their first vacation ages. Like, you've got these people that have got annual passes that used to go like once a month at least, and they hadn't been able to go, and so they really have been wanting to go and enjoy it and see what else is new there. Shocker, a lot of the developments have not been all that great, and things have been breaking down, and staff numbers are lower, and experiences are overall worse. And, of course, more expensive. Now, don't go trying to tell me that I don't know how inflation works. I was an executive assistant to a CFO, okay? The thing is that inflation rises are not actually attributable to the massive increases that have actually been happening. It comes down to corporate greed. And as Bob Chapek has actually said himself, he's laid out for us. He said that the price increase comes down to demand, and it's because people are happy to actually pay this extended price that the prices can go up that way. If people are going to pay the price, they're like, well, that's how much it's clearly worth. And people are coming to the realization that no, it's actually not. And all of this brings us to that lovely new invention that they brought in last year, which is the Genie app, with the ability for Genie Plus. Now, this app was specifically designed for those who have money and to make more money for Disney. Like, the way that they've designed this app is, it's got no human-centered design to it, honestly. If you don't know, HCD, human-centered design, is what people are literally employed to do to improve app experiences, to improve websites, to make sure that they work in the way that humans would want to work. And from all that I've seen about the Disney Plus app. It is very confusing and convoluted. In order to be able to secure lightning lanes, you have to get up before 7 in the morning to be able to book it bang on 7, and that's if you're one of the lucky ones to be able to secure these time slots to begin with. And of course you have to pay for these lightning lanes as well, which can vary in cost from $7 to $15 per person, mind you. The goal was to spread people out amongst the parks, make them walk from place to place, so then you can disperse people to less popular attractions to be able to kill time, make them go past more of these opportunities to spend money, because of course they did increase the amount of gift shops that you could stop by and the amount of points of things to purchase something. All of that happened back in Bob Iger's days as well, because he was very much a money man. I don't think that Bob Iger was actually good for Disney as a whole, but I think Bob Chapek may be even less of a good thing. So the Disney Corporation have implemented this app, which means that you have to spend $15 per person per day to be able to get the Genie Plus app to begin with, to make your day that much easier. And then you also pay for lightning lanes on top of it, so you're already spending money, because the queue times are also, from what I've seen, inflated as well. You've got these people experimenting by going on these rides and not using the Genie Plus app to be able to skip the queues, and then they're like, oh, it's actually 15 minutes less. And so that's been happening in a few instances. So it's been quite interesting to see how much they're trying to specifically steer the entire corporation just towards the rich. So overall, people are no longer happy little consumers like what every single Disney person has been kind of trained to be. Like, the Disney Corporation has specifically trained us for years to make it so that we feel happier when we're actually spending money. That is kind of what the parks have been designed to do, to give you that dopamine hit when you actually acquire this thing, when you part with your hard-earned and also underpaid cash, you know? Perks for being an annual pass holder have even been stripped away as well, especially if you're an out-of-state pass holder. From the way that I've been able to view things, it looks like they're actually punishing those that are most loyal. They know that the ones that go there all the time, because they bought this one-off purchase of this big ticket item to be able to be an annual pass holder, they're like, okay, well, when they come here for like a couple of rides and that's all they want to do, and they're barely buying anything. But they know that those who make those big trips, that's where you actually get the whales, that's where you get the big spenders. Because they're like, well, it's once in a lifetime, I don't really know what I'm doing, I don't really want to waste all this time in these queues, look how long this time is going to be. Oh, do you know what I'll just pay $60 to get my family on there. Now there's this other matter with the whole Genie Plus thing, which I definitely have been thinking of. You know how in Disney movies they're always rewarding people who are kind, people who are patient, people who are loyal? Well, that's kind of being taken away with Genie Plus, because what happens when you've got a poorer family, or like even just an average family, who have been waiting to go to Disneyland for ages and they're stuck in a queue, and then you've got these kids that are all hot because of course you're in the sun, and they're watching all of these people go past them, they're skipping the queue. And what sort of example is this giving for these children that have been taught that patience is a really good thing, you need to wait for things, and this is the polite thing to do, which even Disney films themselves actually advocate for. And then you get these people that are just skipping past them. It's like, hey, that's wrong. It's like, well, is it wrong, Timmy? Is it wrong? Now, you may be trying to tell me, well, that's life, that's the way it is. They need to get used to it because life sucks. And it's like, well, what a wonderful lesson to learn in the happiest place on earth to begin with. And then two, I actually don't agree with the American judicial system, which rewards the rich people for doing the most abhorrent things because they can pay their way out of it, and penalizes poor people for literally no other reason than they're poor.
Plus, how guilty would this make parents feel for not being good enough to be able to afford those extra privileges? Like, what would this make the children think of their parents or caregivers? At least in other instances, this is behind closed doors. The fact that this is out in public makes it even more apparent that this class system has been created.
The prices have risen across the board. Days which are the lower prices of $109 for a park ticket have actually decreased, with more expensive days being placed on historically low rate days. Food has gone up across the board, ranging from 25 cents to $1 or more per item, and that all adds up hugely since it's already very expensive to be able to get a family of 4, for example, to just be able to go there. Even for single people or couples, like, the costs of being able to go there are that much more, that when you're dealing with a time where you haven't begun pay increases and you're looking at all of these added on costs and the things that have been taken away, you're like, oh, I actually don't know if we can really afford this anymore. Let's have a quick look at the things that used to be free but now they cost you money. So in the past, if you stayed at a Disney hotel, you could park your car for free there, and now it's $15 to $25 per day to be able to park your car.
Airport to our hotel without paying extra for a seat aboard the bus. We used to be able to have access to extra magic hours, which included both early and late theme park entry, without the evening hours being a benefit for deluxe resort guests only. We could have select magic bands sent to our home before our trip for free, and of course fast passes to help us bypass the main lines of our favorite rides were the cherry on top of buying a theme park ticket and didn't cost any extra. Launch forward to today, though the perks of what I just listed off still exist for guests in some way, shape, or form, the way to access these benefits comes at some rather steep prices now. Disney's Magical Express retired and was replaced by the Mears Connect and Sunshine Flyer shuttle services, which are available for an extra cost.
Even their expensive things have gone up in price. Like, I couldn't believe when I found out that building a lightsaber before was $200 US plus tax, but now it's gone up to $220 plus tax, and that's in US dollars, which is nearly $300 for that experience where you get yourself and one other person in this room for like a 20-minute what? So now, quite obviously, Disney have created a class system, which is very, very obvious to people, where they are specifically separating out those with and those without. And considering the humble origins of the little mouse, this has been quite a shock for people who are big fans to see. Even those families who do actually fork out the $15 per person per day for the Genie Plus app, you typically only get 2 to 3 rides using that as an average family. 2 to 3 rides. That's ridiculous. And on top of all of this, in order to be able to use the Genie Plus app properly, you need to be up before 7 AM on your holiday to then schedule out everything with military precision, like how I plan holidays, with spreadsheets, with everything all properly categorized. But the thing is that once you're actually there, you don't get to relax. Like, that's when the work kind of begins, when you're there and trying to enjoy things, because you have to take your phone around with you. And honestly, with the amount that you have to use your phone, you have to take a battery bank with you and be spending your time on that whilst minding your children, whilst trying to get them onto the rides that they want to go onto. And then you're following this Genie app, which is telling you to go to these things which aren't popular, which your kids don't want to do, because they're like, hey, you go past like 3 shops on your way there, and also 10 places you can buy candy. And it's like, what? Yeah. It really is like the worst kind of WALL-E future. That's what's kind of been happening. The main point from everything I've been seeing is that people are having less fun, they're spending more money, and they're feeling like Disney doesn't care. Now, you may go telling me, oh, but Bryony, people shouldn't go having feelings towards corporations, because that's what it is, it's just a corporation, they're just there to make money. However, I will counteract that by saying that Disney has been using nostalgia and weaving themselves through people's entire childhoods, through their entire lives, specifically placing themselves in ways to have these positive affirmations in people's brains and positive connections. They've spent billions on doing this. And so are you really all that surprised that you've got people that have got a warmth and affinity to something that has brought them a lot of joy, as I've pointed out in my other video talking about the issues with Disney? Like, I'm really not surprised that we've got people with such a strong nostalgic affinity with something that effectively raised a lot of people. And honestly, out of all of the coping mechanisms, I don't really think that people having an affinity for Disney movies or something is all that harmful a coping mechanism to have when they're literally just trying to escape to like a nice, happy fantasy world. Granted, it's one that excludes an awful lot of people, but you know what I mean, it's fairly harmless and people are just having a good time in a way to try and escape the doom and gloom in the world. Another thing is that people are commonly making comparisons between Disney World and Disneyland and going to Universal Studios and seeing that as being the destination to go to instead of Disney. Granted, Universal has got a very strong affinity with J.K. Rowling, who we have a huge problem with on this channel, but when you're trying to compare oranges here, Disney is chasing more of that sweet IP and relying on the loyalty, whereas it looks like, from the videos I've seen, it looks like whilst Universal is leaning on that too, they're actually trying to create experiences that are actually innovative and immersive, as opposed to just screen-based things like what Disney's been putting in for a lot of things. Disney's just way less interested in creating magic moments now. Let's quickly chat about employees in the Disney College program, which is something that people have typically vied for and really wanted to get because of the amazing learning opportunities, the great experience. But now so many things have been taken away from that, and I've been watching some videos on it as well, which I'll just watch this.
$185 for a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment, and $205 for a 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom apartment. These rent prices were weekly, not monthly. Instead of being taught at Disney University, they'd be taught over Zoom. Instead of being an hour a week for a month, the same hour-long class would be offered multiple times over the month. And instead of different subjects taught by Disney professionals, the only one I kept seeing was, here's how to build a resume! Are required to have a minimum amount of hours scheduled, enough to cover your rent for that week. There isn't a maximum. So yes, you will be working. A lot. However, your location ultimately determines how many hours you get, which means you might be making barely enough to cover rent or getting so many hours that you never go a week without working overtime. To help better explain this, I'll use the 4 guys in my apartment as an example. Myself, working at Mission Space, I got scheduled 61.5 hours over 6 days, with my one day off being December 23rd.
In that era, a couple years ago, the application process, you were always able to rank your positions. You would be able to have like a top 3 choices of what roles you would be interested in. And then not only that, but you could rank every single role and either say you had high interest, low interest, or no interest in a role, so that you would not get accepted into the program and placed into a role that you were then not going to be happy in. And the current system for applying to the program is you do a basic initial application where you just fill out your information, your job history, and then you do a web-based interview. Everything is just computer generated. You either pass or you fail. If you pass, you're then in consideration, and that's it. You then find out in a couple days or weeks if you were accepted or not accepted.
So obviously, instead of listening to these students about where they would excel, the things that they want to be able to do at Disney, and their skills and attributes and all this other stuff, instead of doing that, they've taken that away and they're just putting these kids in places where they need people to go, as opposed to like actually assessing where it would suit them to go, sort of like hiring 101. You want to be able to hire people that are actually good at doing a job, right? Even if they're only there for like 3 months or whatever. You want to make sure that they're actually going to be excelling at that job, especially when your reputation is on the line, like what it is with Disney. Somewhere that has been known for their high quality, but that is absolutely slipping now. They're also targeting college students like this because they are greener than Kermit at this point. They do not know what to expect from working in places typically, because they may have had like some sort of part-time job in the past, but a lot of them haven't. And so it's a prime place to be able to just pick on people and take advantage of them and exploit them, and also, not to mention, pay them less. I'm so grateful for things like social media at this point because it's actually showing people the things that are wrong with it. Let's talk about the Don't Say Gay bill. Now, I'm censoring myself quite heavily, but the bill we're talking about is the Parents' Rights Education Bill, which you already know is the Don't Say Hey bill. Jessie Gender has a fantastic video all about turning red, which I really recommend you watch. I've got them both linked down below for you. The fact of the matter is that the Parental Rights Education Bill, or whatever that rubbish is just homophobic, plain and simple. And honestly, it should be an entire video unto itself, but we don't really have enough time for all of that here, so I'm just going to sum it up in a quick nutshell for you. Such conversations may not occur in kindergarten through to grade 3 in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students in accordance with state standards. It doesn't specify which instruction would be considered age appropriate. It also prohibits classroom discussion about sexual orientation or gender identity in certain grade levels or in a specified manner. The bill also scarily allows parents to sue a school district at the school district's expense. Again, even scarier, the bill also prohibits school support service personnel from withholding information regarding a student's mental, emotional, or physical health or well-being. It does not define sexual orientation or gender identity and leaves what is prohibited open to interpretation. When people say that they don't want their kids learning about sexual activity or where babies come from and all this other malarkey, right? You actually don't care about that, because the thing is that you are buying clothes that look like this. You are saying that a boy will be a heartbreaker, that when a boy and a girl are playing together, oh, look at them, it's like they're married. Why don't you play parent? You are buying little girls literally pregnant Barbie. I honestly do not know where people get off trying to say that they're doing this in the interest of the children. Because the thing is that you're celebrating movies that actually show two adults falling in love, two adults, one of whom is asleep, the other one who isn't, who kisses them and sexually assaults them. You're endorsing this stuff, but you're not okay in a school setting for people to acknowledge that someone's got two mummies, and you're not okay with saying that, oh, this kid likes to go by they them pronouns.
You're trash, Brock. You're gross.
Please leave your dislike and hateful comment. I will eat it up with a spoonful of sugar, because in this situation I am Mary Poppins and you are the evil bankers trying to steal from children. I am so passionate about this really bothers me. So this whole bill came out and Disney took ages to take a stance on it, of course, because they would. And then they came out saying that they don't support it afterwards, which made people think that they were being woke and too involved in politics.
With so many activists at all levels that Disney simply couldn't function if they were all to be purged in one fell swoop, Chapek instead added new levels of bureaucracy aimed at keeping these crazies in check, all while moving the company back to politically neutral. The activists did not take kindly to that and organized their own resistance movement, doing petitions and whatnot, waiting for something big that could be weaponized.
We've had a lot of people saying that corporations should stay out of politics. And you know what? I agree with you. I've made an entire video about corporate personhood and why it matters who people that own businesses and have influential places in businesses, why it matters who those people are voting for. I 100% agree with you that business and politics should not mix. I totally agree, because they're the ones lobbying and giving money to politicians to make politicians act in ways that they want. I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think that's healthy. I think that should be completely separated. So yes, we are on the same page with this. The fact of the matter is, Disney has always been involved in politics. Always. The thing that people are being offended about now is because they're trying to do something which is seen as progressive. Even though the thing is that, think about it, Disney wouldn't be doing this if it didn't directly benefit them. And they also are very aware of the fact that they've got the traditionalists on their side, that they've got conservatives on their side, and they stick to stories which are very, very conservative typically. Like, they write out any potential thing that could be possibly misconstrued as being okay to be gay. They make Pixar not include anything LGBTQIA+ positive, and they also make sure to include things in a way where it can be edited out to be able to sell to homophobic countries like China. So don't go telling me that they don't know what they're doing, because they do. They're not one of the biggest companies in the world for no reason. They know what humans are thinking, they know what they're doing. You know that Disney Corporation is still very much on the right? Even though they made donations to Democrats, Democrats are actually right-leaning and Republicans are far-right. When it comes to people thinking that Bernie is really, really far left, to anyone outside of America, we're like, what? Excuse me? He's kind of center-left. Disney has actually actively lobbied against living wage increases. They've spent heaps of money on that sort of stuff. Like, there is no way that they are in any way, shape or form progressive. And Disney still does want to be involved in politics, right? Because they've currently still got free reign over their parks in Florida. Like, they can do whatever they want there. They could even build a nuclear power plant if they wanted to, because they are allowed absolute free reign. Which, when they finally took a stance against DeSantis, or whatever his name is, they're like, well, maybe we should be rethinking all this power that you've got. And it's like, it's literally, it's disgusting political bargaining chips. I hate all of it. I hate everything. Like, very true to Walt's name, you know that the Disney Corporation has never really been pro-union as well, right? They've taken the same stance as what many capitalists have, that you should be able to resolve things by talking to each other and not having to get external parties involved. So you probably remember the great Animators Strike that happened, right? That Disney himself was appalled at happening. Like, Walt was begging people not to join the union and was like, if you boys join the union, I won't let you swim in my pool anymore. Al Dempster, who was a head animator, actually just replied saying, Walt, swimming in your pool does not pay my rent or feed my kids, so what do they care? Walt also played favourites, he paid people unequally, he gave different treatment depending on the person, depending on how much they liked them. So don't worry, the Disney Corporation has very much stayed true to what Walt was building, which was an extended version of a capitalist hellscape. Now, whilst Walt does say that he wants everyone to be able to enjoy the parks, we all kind of know that it was more of a specific kind of person. But there are a lot of comments of people saying that Walt would be hating to see what the parks have actually become these days and what the Disney Corporation are doing to guests now. And maybe he would. He probably would. I don't know. Even though I do love Saving Mr. Banks, that was still told in a very Disney favourable light. Like, the most scandalous thing about that movie was the fact that they showed him smoking. Walt's done a lot of worse things than that. What can you do instead of going to Disneyland or Disney World? So I wanted to do a little rough experiment just for funsies, because you probably know that one of the places which is my favourite in the world is Italy. I adore it and I want to go back there. So we actually really want to go back to Europe and do like a big tour of all the castles and stuff and go down to south of France. Go back to Italy and probably explore Italy like properly this time. But of course that wouldn't be a very fair comparison. So what I've done is I was looking up how much it would cost for us to go from here in Aotearoa to Disneyland, to stay there for 3 to 4 nights and do the things that we would have been doing, because don't forget this was going to be our honeymoon. So let's see how much that costs in comparison to actually going to, say, Rome by keeping it one city and staying at a nice Airbnb. By doing that for 3 weeks, let's say. I was thinking a month initially, and then I was like, maybe we'll make it 3 weeks. Maybe we'll try and make it a bit more fair. So let's have a look at that little experiment, right? So as you can quite clearly see, we could go to Rome for like 3 weeks and have the best kind of time. And I could go see the Trevi Fountain every day if I wanted to, which is one of my favourite places on this planet. You may be trying to point out that's not realistic, but the thing is, this was the room that I wanted. This was what we were going to be doing by going to Disney. We would be doing all of that stuff. So I wanted to have the full princess package, okay? I wanted to be able to do it all, so then it was the one time we'd go there because it's the only time I would put him through going through what he would find to be hell. But now he doesn't have to anymore. You can go to Disneyland for that many days, or you can go to Rome for that many days. From here in Aotearoa, I know this isn't relatable to everyone, but it's very expensive here to go anywhere. So as far as I'm concerned, with the climate crisis and everything, I'm like, if we can only actually do one trip that we're able to afford, and also for the guilt it will put on me for the environmental impact, I want to go to Europe. That's where I want to go. I don't want to go giving my money to this terrible mouse company. That's me personally. You may feel differently. You may also be saying, that's unrealistic. How dare you travel at all? And of course, this all comes back to the same point that we're all hypocrites here. Myself very much included. None of us is perfect. Because I still pay for Disney Plus every single year. So that's 120 of my hard-earned dollars and underpaid dollars I'm getting taken out of my account to Disney every single year, so I can watch all the things on there that I really enjoy and have a little bit of a dopamine hit, especially when I'm feeling down. So yeah, they're still getting my money regardless. Same as my 2 besties, they actually have access to that account as well, so they're both benefiting from it too. Now that price used to be $99 per year, but then they did a price hike on it because, I don't know, inflation. No, bugger off. But overall, it's actually just been really interesting to see these people who were reveling in the parks and have always enjoyed going, seeing that just shatter, seeing this illusion just drop, and seeing how they are like having their dreams just kind of like taken away from them. Now, you may have no empathy for these people that want to go support a corporation and blah blah blah, like I said before. If this is where you want to go for your happy place and it's not hurting anyone, who are we really to judge people? It's sad seeing people so disheartened and just beaten down because they can't afford it, because the magic's gone, because the loyalty is no longer being rewarded. Like, you have to recognize these are incredibly loyal people that have grown up with this company and dedicated to a lot of their lives to this company, this corporation, whatever, to the theme parks or the movie or whatever aspect of the entire corporation that it owns that they have, and then to go and just feel like they're not valued anymore. That's a real kick in the teeth for a lot of these people, because the Disney parks were designed for average people to be able to enjoy, of course, if you're cishet and white, typically. And it's probably one of the most twisted things about this whole thing, because the manipulation is just so open now, and it's so obvious ever since the panoramic, which is still going on, by the way. So that's really just disgusting to me to see that, because the thing is that Disney knows that they've got such a strong chokehold on the entertainment industry, on the movie industry, on theme parks, on everything. They've got such a strong chokehold on so many aspects of life that the people that work there as well, they know that they can do whatever they want to the people that work there. And so I think a lot of people are kind of like waking up to these realities from across the spectrum, and that's probably the most interesting thing to me, because now we've actually got people on the left, on the right, everywhere agreeing that Disney's kind of losing its soul and Disney is disappointing them, and they're just getting disillusioned overall. And it's really interesting because if you think about the power this holds, like, is there any greater power than when two siblings who normally hate each other get joined together to take down the big enemy, which is typically a parent? Yeah, this could be powerful if everybody boycotted, but I don't really think that's going to happen. I still think that people will be going to Disney, and I still think that people will be sad about it and bitter about it, but I think that because Disney is aiming specifically for the richest people, that they're going to be fine. Like, they have got their fingers in so many pies, they're not going to suffer. They're not going to suffer at all. The main thing for me is how sad it's made people in general. And that's the worst part of all of this, is the workers being affected, is the people that used to enjoy it being affected, is everyone just sort of being like, seeing what late stage capitalism really does. And I can hope for a revolution. Do I see it happening? I don't know. I don't want to go saying yes. And I don't want to go saying I'd lead a charge, but that's the main thing that really sticks out to me. So, if you did make it all the way to the end of this video, thank you. I know it was a long one. It's also made me really angry just working on it and reading all of the comments and the bigotry and just how terrible some people are. So if you made it all the way to the end and you don't know what else to say, please leave the rat emoji and the sparkle emoji, because really we're dealing with a rat with a little sprinkle of pixie dust behind it, aren't we? That's the reality of the case. So what about you? Have you ever been to Disneyland or Disney World? What did you think of it? Have you been recently? And when was your happiest time going there? Because obviously I've never been, and now I'm never gonna go. And honestly, I'm okay with that fact. I'd rather keep that 10 grand and go to Europe. Go fulfill a different bucket list and go and experience the castles, the things that actually inspired the movies, and learn all of the wonderful history there and just enjoy the places there, instead of going to see this corporate sanitized casket of a place. That's me personally anyway. Thank you lovers so much for watching, and next week I'll be taking a week off. Now on the Spice Girls video, which I'll be working on because we're working on a feminist video next time, so okay conservatives, you've been and gone. So we're working on Spice Girls video, but then I also want to talk about the Spice Girls themselves for my tragic icons, so that's going to be a two-parter. So I may be taking next week off so I can really focus on getting everything covered, so that gives me more time to then do those two videos succinctly. But anyway, so yes, I'll be off next week, but I'll be back with 2 parts on different weeks, of course, because these videos are in depth. Okay, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Bye.
Now I'm here, suddenly I see